This video has been confirmed by Reuters, with the wire service quoting Ukrainian sources saying they hit an ammunitions warehouse. Evacuations have been occurring in the town of Toropets, which is around 380 kilometres from Moscow.
You just need to look at the footage of the apparent blast. I mean, we are talking about plumes of smoke and huge fires and the force to match. I mean, it's the kind of energy generated which caused NASA to report seeing numerous heat sources from satellite imagery. A minor magnitude earthquake was even reported in the surrounding area.
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been pleading with allies for months to let his country fire long-range Western-made missiles deep into Russian territory. Until it's given the green light by Western countries, the Ukrainian military cannot hit those Russian targets. But the US and the UK appear increasingly open to lifting the restrictions, which prompted a warning from Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, saying that if Ukraine fired those weapons into Russian territory, he would consider the US and other NATO countries directly involved and therefore at war with Russia. His remarks signal he may be willing to escalate against the West in response, and some Western officials are concerned this could mean acts of sabotage against their infrastructure or possibly, Peter, NATO bases.
So these are certainly interesting times as Ukraine looks to try and take the war deeper inside Russia.
You get a lot of attention about Gaza. That's everywhere. But there's not that much attention on this. Now, this story is getting attention all over the world.
It was an attack the likes of which we've never seen before. Hundreds of handheld pagers exploded nearly simultaneously across Lebanon and in parts of Syria.
What we know is about 2,800, and that number could go up, of these people who were injured, were standing around people or wearing these pagers.
Look at this video.
Security video shows a man reaching for his pocket before it explodes. Israel has not claimed responsibility.
It is believed the victims were all members of the Hezbollah terror group.
The blast killed at least 9 people and injured several thousand others, including Iran's ambassador to Lebanon.
Communication devices turned into bombs. Even reports of solar-powered equipment blowing up.
This is the most significant preemptive strike against terrorism in the history of modern warfare. Israel single-handedly changed the rules through this coordinated cyber attack.
The funerals had barely begun when there was more terror. This was Nabatea in the south of the country, yet more panic. This time at the funeral of those killed in the string of pager explosions less than 24 hours earlier.
An exact number of explosive devices still unclear this afternoon. Reuters is reporting 5,000.
They exploded in Beirut and other parts of Lebanon, as well as the Syrian capital, Damascus.
Mossad has been operating this way for years, and that's why Israel is still in existence today. Free, sovereign, democratic country. They depend on Mossad to take their fight to the enemy.
We are in a multi-front battle against Iran's axis of evil that strives to destroy us. We exact a heavy price for any attempt to harm us.
The Houthi rebels based in Yemen claimed they breached Israel's defenses by using a hypersonic missile for the first time. On Monday, Iran's president denied his country supplied the rebels with hypersonic weapons and opened the door for de-escalation talks with the U.S. That's a sharp contrast to the Houthis, who threatened more attacks in the coming days.
The Israeli enemy should expect more strikes and upcoming special operations as we approach the first anniversary of the blessed October 7th operation.
Fighting is also escalating with Hezbollah along Israel's northern border, leading some to suggest a direct conflict with Iran could be inevitable.
Where did a bunch of rebels and outlaws from the mountains of Yemen get the missiles to make these attacks. They got it from Iran.
Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said Monday the only way that displaced Israeli residents in the north can return to their homes is through military force. In Tel Aviv, Nate Foy, Fox News.
Beginning in verse 2, he says, I'm going to make Jerusalem a cup of drunkenness and trembling that sends all surrounding peoples reeling. So he says Israel and Jerusalem are going to be very troubling, a problem that's perplexing. Nobody can figure out how to solve it. He goes on, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock, which literally means a rock that's so heavy and so burdensome that it's impossible to be moved. He says, I will make it immovable for all nations. In other words, if all the nations of the world worked together to remove Jerusalem from the heart of Israel, they would not succeed. Which is interesting because there are many who are trying to do that very thing at this time. And he goes on, all who try to move her will injure themselves, and Jerusalem will remain intact in her place. Once again, what makes this prophecy so incredible is that Jerusalem is not in and of itself a very important place. Yet for 3,000 years, we find that Jerusalem has been kind of a nexus point for international conflict. Since 1948, when Israel first became a nation, they have been involved in 8 separate wars. And importantly, they have prevailed every time, because not to prevail meant their literal extinction, not only as a nation, but very possibly their population as a whole. It's a place of religious conflict and has been for a very long time. It's the only city that is claimed by all 3 of the major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, as being their significant holy site upon the planet. And so as a result, you have this constant religious tension going on between these different religious groups. And we have to ask the question, why is it? Why is it such a hot spot? And the answer in part may be supplied by Scripture. It's the only city which God said when Solomon first built the first temple in Jerusalem. It's the only city that he said, I have consecrated. And to consecrate something means that you declare it to be a sacred, holy place. The Bible also tells us, though, that there is still one more war, one more conflict that Israel's going to have to face. And it's this battle of Gog and Magog that's described in chapter 38 and 39 of Ezekiel. And it's interesting because it tells us essentially that there will be this massive coalition of nations that he describes as Rosh, Magog, Meshech, Tubal, Persia, Cush, Gomer, Beth Togarmah, who are led by an individual called Gog, the prince of Rosh, and Meshech and Tubal. I mean, pretty strange names, but nonetheless, he says there will be this massive coalition that will come together for the very purpose of destroying Israel. In fact, the battlefield that it describes is going to be on the mountains of Israel. The purpose of the invasion, it says, is threefold. 1, to plunder. 2, to loot. And thirdly, to destroy the people of Israel.